This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Looks like we have a lot of distractions going on today. Distractions that I really don't care to cover. More of Meghan's bullshit and propaganda being pushed out. One of them kind of is not getting the attention that it should, which is this post that was put up on Sussex.com. So Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have put this up on their website in a new statement backing families involved in the Los Angeles social media addiction trial, saying the case has brought major technology companies under renewed scrutiny. So Harry and Meghan, under the new banner of Archwell Philanthropy, said they were proud to have stood with and supported parents, advocates, and experts calling for safer technology. Written on the website, it says, today, the largest technology companies find themselves under unprecedented scrutiny. Their products, their design choices, and their impact on young people are being examined not just in public debate, but now in a court of law. And regardless of any single verdict, one truth is already clear. These companies are on trial in the court of history. This is the first case of its kind, but it will not be the last. So I want to know who is behind now writing these little blurbs up for Harry and Meghan. Is it still James Holt or is it Shauna Knepp? But somebody has a clear focus on sticking to this and using this as Harry and Meghan's new rebranding of Archwell Philanthropies. So this post goes to refer to the number of allegations that are going on in this court case, which I did cover in a couple of videos back when the trial hit with Mark Zuckerberg, saying that Mark Zuckerberg is actually now putting the burden on the operating systems and the hardware in order to do this age verification. If you remember the video that I did pertaining to what's going on now in New York when it comes to these bills being introduced and trying to get people to verify their identity here in New York, they want it all the way down to the actual device before you can even use the device, that you have to verify your age. And this is where Mark Zuckerberg in the court case had been pushing or guiding, I guess, the industry to start doing. He doesn't want to do it. And he doesn't think that social media platforms should be the one to have the burden and hold the liability of verifying age. So to catch up to speed with this case, Meta and YouTube are denying any kind of liability, with Meta arguing that this woman suing them for her addiction to social media faced significant challenges before she ever used social media. And YouTube's defense, they're stating that their platform was not comparable to social media services built around social validation features. Both companies have also pointed to safety tools and parental controls already available to users. In my opinion, I think Zuckerberg is such a snake. Zuckerberg doesn't care about privacy, nor does he care about freedom of speech. He just cares about not getting in trouble with the government. And with all of these laws coming into play, it was announced yesterday that Meta is ending Instagram direct message end-to-end encryption. In case you don't know, Meta is quietly dismantling one of its few genuine privacy commitments. Starting May 8th, end-to-end encryption for Instagram direct messages disappears, taking with it the one technical guarantee that kept those conversations private from Meta itself. The feature being removed was never universal anyway. End-to-end encryption for Instagram DMs had been available only in certain regions, not enabled by default. And since Meta began testing it in 2021 as part of what Mark Zuckerberg called his privacy-focused vision for social networking, the vision apparently has an expiration date. The timing of this is kind of suspicious, since TikTok last week told the BBC that it has no plans to bring end-to-end encryption to its DMs, arguing that privacy makes users less safe. Now, what makes me very weary is that this end-to-end encryption means only the people in a conversation can read it, a technical lock that excludes the platform, third parties, and anyone who might later obtain a warrant. When this lock disappears, meaning when they remove this encryption, Meta and its employees can read Instagram DMs. Law enforcement can subpoena them, and advertisers may eventually benefit from what gets learned. Instagram users who relied on encrypted DMs have until May 8th to decide what to archive. After that, all these private conversations are up for Metas to read if they want to. When I think about what happened to us and knowing that there were members of the squad working at Facebook and Google who were getting people's information, this makes me very uneasy, especially since Harry and Meghan have been all over advocating for researchers like the Renee DeRestas and Jory Craigs to have access to users' data. And when you think about these two who continue to keep crying over security, it's not because they feel truly unsafe. It's because they want that access back to the intelligence to spy and surveil users online if they are considered perceived threats. And imagine now that these so-called direct messages are no longer encrypted, they're going to have a field day. I think the only solution now, because it truly is getting out of hand, where none of these people who claim to say that they want to protect kids are doing this for the right reasons. We know this. Everything about Meghan Markle feels so dirty and corrupted that it literally makes the hairs on my skin stand up. I get deeply uneasy whenever Meghan talks about keeping the kids safe. It comes across as predatory, especially since she constantly surrounds herself with the most manipulative and ethically bankrupt people on the planet. Yesterday, news broke that Gemma O'Neill, the woman behind the celebrity meet and greet Meghan is headlining in Australia, owes $500,000 to creditors and is in serious financial trouble. I don't fully understand the details of this podcast business that she's running and company called Besties, but the whole setup, especially the involvement of Marcus Anderson, reeks of something shady going on. Some people are speculating that Meghan will pull out of the event. In my opinion, I doubt it. Meghan has zero shame. And as long as the check clears, and I bet there was a hefty upfront payment to lock her in, she'll be there. She'll probably do the bare minimum, but that doesn't matter to her. She'll still dominate the headlines, good or bad. And that's really all that she's looking for. This whole thing is a mess, and it now puts Marcus in this awkward spot since he's the one who brokered the connection. I can only imagine the earful he's getting from her right now about the damage that's being caused to her so-called brand, as if it wasn't already in the toilet. What she refuses to see is that she is the one that brought this all onto herself. No one would be digging into Gemma's financial problems if Meghan wasn't involved. In short, Gemma technically just got Markled, and I think in record time. It really makes you wonder, when are people going to learn that any association with Meghan is the kiss of death for not only your career, but also for your reputation? It's going to be fascinating to watch how all of this unfolds, especially with Tom Bower's new book dropping right before this so-called tour in Australia. Will it affect Meghan? Probably not. We know and we've seen and observed that she has zero shame. And what we saw last time when Tom Bower dropped his first book, Meghan pulled through as if nothing happened. She pretends to ignore it, but we do know that her team likely will be combing through every page while her attack squad goes after anyone who dares to discuss it to mitigate people reading about what a horrible, vacuous, self-serving human being that she is. Harry, though, I suspect that it's going to hit him hard because it's one thing after another. And when this book hits, that people are going to be talking about it up until they go off to Australia. I predict he's going to look even more sullen and angry than usual. And that bitterness will almost certainly bleed into his keynote speech that he's giving on psychological, social, whatever, safety in the workplace summit that he's going to be a part of. You can guarantee that. Let's all remember when the first book hit, Harry was going off to the UN to give his speech during Nelson Mandela Day. There, we heard how angry his speech was. So I guarantee it will do the same thing to him this go around. And what we're going to see is Meghan continue to keep posting the most boring and random shit on her Instagram account, making her look that much more insane and crazy.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
So pretty and pink.
Meanwhile, looking at this is the shittiest bouquet I've ever seen put together. But like when you look closer at this and you see how tense Meghan is, you know that she is very angry. Like, who puts together a bouquet of flowers looking so angry? Like, everything with this woman is so scripted. Imagine, like, telling Harry, hey, can you film me just looking peaceful and calm so we can distract away from all this other noise, even though inside she's really seething about it? And we all see that Meghan is that type of person that inside her head, she's thinking, I'm going to show them. Meghan's like the crazy ex-girlfriend who got dumped and is still obsessing over her ex. I feel like this is her relationship with the royal family. Everything that we see Meghan do comes across as if she's trying to show the royal family what they're missing, somehow thinking that the royals are going to beg for her to come back. I truly believe that's why we see these so-called tours now happening. Yeah, I do think this is all a part of trying to rehabilitate their brand, but nothing is working. And if King Charles brings these two back into the fold, damage to the institution's brand is guaranteed, because Meghan and Harry are Andrew and Fergie 2.0. Now, I do believe that these Epstein files threw a huge wrench into Harry and Meghan's plans on going back to the UK, especially for Harry, who I believe did see himself going back as a working royal. I think we can agree that Meghan wouldn't go back as a working royal. I don't think it would be allowed for her to go back as a working royal. I can see Meghan going back with Harry just because everything else has failed here. And why wouldn't she want to go back and be under the protection of the institution? But I think now with those Epstein files, that dream is over. I don't see any chance for either of them being welcomed back into the fold anytime soon. Harry may have hopes for Invictus 2027, but with what's coming out in Tom Bower's book, that's not looking so good right now. Harry right now is holding on to Invictus Games for dear life. In my opinion, I don't see Invictus Games getting rid of Harry until after Birmingham, UK. Unless Harry's tied to a scandal that threatens the operation of this charity, I don't see Invictus kicking Harry out because of the risk Harry would pose from a PR perspective. Even though Harry is a traitor to his own country, remember, he's still seen as a prince of the UK. And on top of it, he was one of the founders. So it wouldn't look good to bring the games back to the UK and then kick the original founder of the games, who likely would retaliate in the media, just like what he did with Santa Bali, which would end up hurting not only the games, but also the veterans. I believe that's the fear that Invictus Games Foundation has, but I don't think that's the reality. If they could find another spokesperson that would draw the same kind of visibility that Harry gives, then I think it would be a no-brainer to replace him. But at this time, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. And, many people have suggested maybe Mike Tyndall should jump in and take over, but I don't think that's a good idea either. I don't think the royal family wants anything to do with anything connected to this mess that Harry and Meghan have made of the Invictus Games, which is really sad. It's almost like if the ship's going to go down, let it go down with Harry and Meghan. At this point, Meghan has nothing left except for exploiting those kids. And right now, it looks like little Betty is the golden child. So apparently, Meghan is using little Betty's hands in this photo op for As Ever Whatever for some stupid partnership that she's got launching tomorrow. And I'm sure there's controversy surrounding that in some way, in some form. We just have to just sit it out because, somebody's going to find something corrupted with what she's up to. Which brings me to this stupid book that Meghan put up on her Instagram post yesterday of this stupid book called They Bloom Because of You, filled with all these motivational poems where we know that Meghan strategically marked certain poems or pages for us to see what a great mom she is and the sacrifices that she's making. But it's all a part of this as ever, whatever bullshit that she's trying to sell us now. Everything with this woman is so contrived and so fake. If I had to guess, the ugly bouquet of flowers that Meghan was putting together that you saw earlier in this video has something to do with this so-called partnership with as ever whatever. I'm pretty sure High Camp is going to learn soon what it means to be Markled. Can't wait to see what garbage they put together tomorrow. I think the only positive for High Camp is that now people know who High Camp is. Other than that, what are they going to get from Meghan Markle? In my opinion, this is another brand to stay far away from. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole now because Meghan Markle's associated with it. And this is just another example of Meghan Markle thinking that her brand is so influential that if she attaches herself to another company, that things are just going to start flying off the shelves. I highly doubt that that's going to be the case here because what people are failing to understand that just because it's getting the recognition globally doesn't mean that it's going to turn into sales. I think it's going to do the exact opposite. And to think about the amount of money that Meghan has wasted going into all of these failed endeavors, it's truly breathtaking. And while this clown show is going on distracting everyone, Harry and Meghan are still in the background doing what they have been doing since 2020. It's the only thing that Harry and Meghan have been consistent with. So what does that tell you? It tells you that all of the money that's being pumped into Meghan failing is all for distraction. It's statistically impossible to have all of the best resources available at your fingertips and still fail. And then on top of it, be given more opportunities. Like what sane person would go into business with a couple who have a track record and reputation for not only being toxic, but also lazy? Is anybody really surprised about the relationship with Netflix being over? I mean, come on. Obama and Susan Rice being connected to Netflix and all of the leftist woke propaganda that was being cranked out during the Biden years. Who in their right mind would give Harry and Meghan $100 million for this shit that they put out if they were really serious? My guess is that the reason why we are getting this notice of severing ties and the relationship is over is because the USAID tap has been turned off. That's my opinion. And all of this that we're seeing now is Meghan trying to figure out what's going to keep us all occupied and distracted until the next election. Until then, expect to see more of the same nonsense and distraction while they continue quietly behind the scenes supporting the erosion of our civil liberties. And I hope people recognize that in the intentional sea of failures, that this is the only thing that Harry and Meghan have been consistent with and successful at. So just try and keep that in mind when you see all of this noise coming up. It's all intentional. Meghan and Harry are still garbage human beings for doing this. Anyhow, what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
Such a fraud.